So, Neil, I'm going to start with you because we know that Trump taking the fifth in a civil trial is different, and it could certainly make him look even more guilty. What is better, him answering questions, taking the fifth, in your view?
It's a Hobson's choice. I think both are a problem. So, Jen, I think you were absolutely right at the start to say this trial is not going well for Donald Trump. There's no doubt about that. The judge has already basically found fraud. Now, Trump has a choice tomorrow. Does he continue the 440 times of asserting the Fifth Amendment or not? The case for him of taking the Fifth Amendment is he's basically going to probably perjure himself one way or another if he takes the stand. And he also is known for giving meandering testimony. So in that deposition, that lasted like 7 hours or something like that. And he just kind of randomly says different things about different, at all times. And the Jean Carroll thing, he went so far as to say, well, if you're a star historically, then you're allowed to grope women. So, if he does actually take the stand, I expect the New York Attorney General's office to basically give him a lot of rope. On the other hand, if he doesn't take the stand, then New York law, because it's a civil case, not a criminal, says the judge can infer everything against you. So you can read Trump's silence to be the absolute worst. So, I can't imagine having a client like this. So it's a little hard for me.
You're probably not a candidate for him hiring you, or nor would you. Andrew, what do you think here? I mean, so I guess he could not take the stand, I guess you're saying, even though he's scheduled to. He could, plead the fifth 400 times again. What do you think his best tactic here is?
Well, he has to appear in court. He is subpoenaed as a witness, so he will show up. Whether he decides to answer all of the questions, I think, remains to be seen. And I think some of that goes to the strategy that the Attorney General's office uses. Now, as you noted, there are a lot of things that they could cross-examine him on that go to the size of his apartment, how he valued Mar-a-Lago. I mean, there's sort of black and white issues that I think it's extremely hard for him to come up with a consistent theory that's not going to get him into a lot of trouble. But they also could go big in the questioning and ask him about all of the lies that are laid out, according to the government, in the D.C. case and in the Florida case. In other words, it's relevant that the Attorney General's office says they are dealing with somebody who sort of lies, as we live and breathe. And so I think when it gets to questioning that might go big, he could take the fifth and say, if it relates directly to those outstanding criminal cases, I'm not going to answer. But I think he really is going to be sort of forced to answer strategically, because, as Neil says, if he doesn't answer, this whole case is over. The court gets to say, I'm fighting against you just based on your Fifth Amendment.
So these cases are all very different. There's a lot of cases Donald Trump is navigating right now. But if you're Jack Smith, Fani Willis, what are you watching for? They all watch each other's cases. What are you looking for?
Yeah, so I think you're looking for two things. One, procedure, one, substance. On procedure, just which trials are going when, because they all have to kind of work in some sort of sequence. So with respect to the trial tomorrow, that's not fair because that's already started. And I think tomorrow you're just watching, who is this guy, Donald Trump, a different animal when he's on the stand than he is when he's out in front of the cameras. My suspicion is not, but Trump is afraid. He's always been afraid of being questioned, particularly under oath. I mean, the guy's afraid of being questioned, in the Republican debates. So that's why he's not going. And we all know that, the truth is not exactly an element of Republican debates, but nonetheless, he's afraid of even showing up there. So given that, I think they're going to be watching what kinds of things might we get him to answer in a court.
Andrew, real quick before we let you two go, what do you expect the headline to be tomorrow when the day wraps?
I think it's going to be about sort of his incredible answers about the size of the Mar-a-Lago sort of valuation, about the size of his Trump Tower apartment. I think those are such concrete, clear things that I think that's something that newspapers, reporters are going to latch onto, because everyone can understand sort of clear black and white issues. And I don't see a way out for Trump in giving an explanation here.
Andrew Weissmann, Neil Katyal, thank you both for joining us. Lots to watch tomorrow.